Hey, folks, how you doing? How is everybody in TV land out there doing a live stream on a Friday night? This is kind of like Saturday Night Live on a Friday. Nowhere near as funny, not as talented of a people on the cast. Hopefully, a little more informative than what you're going to find on Saturday Night Live. I am going to go over some of the news. I was been kind of a strange day today. We went to a funeral. My family attended a funeral of a neighbor. Very quick, very sudden passing. Sweet lady. And we had to drive a fair place because they wanted to find a place that would have a funeral where we could have people there without masks and that kind of stuff. So we had to kind of get out of the Boise area to do that. But came back and, we're just kind of having a contemplative discussion on life in our household. And we're looking at different things and exploring different options. And, but just kind of sat down, and my wife's working on a project, and I decided to go through some of the news and looking at some of the news. And I thought, you know what, I just need to go talk about this. So we're having a rare Friday night, Saturday night thing. And I'm going to be, hello, Amelia. I am going to be opening up the chat tonight for Q&A. If you have questions about what I'm talking about, feel free to get on the chat and say something in the comment section, and we can talk about some of this stuff. This does not just have to be me talking about what's happening in the world. I'd love to get your feedback on this stuff as well. And one of the first things that I saw today on the news is that Fox News has fired Lou Dobbs. Now, Lou Dobbs, to me, has some of the best integrity on any kind of news show. This guy's he brings in experts. He talks about them. He's articulate. He explores all sides of an issue. He's got his opinions. That's great. Love that. But he has been accused of, quote unquote, repeating the lies of what are called lies about this election, and that these were all debunked, and he kept repeating these debunked theories. And I guess this voting company that has at the center of all this controversy has started filing lawsuits against Rudy Giuliani and against Sidney Powell and Mike Lindell, and now I guess they filed against Fox News as well. And you have to wonder, do they really have a case when you look at the evidence, or are they calling bluffs? I mean, to me, it's like they're calling bluffs. I think they're just calling the major bluff. They're suing these people for millions and millions of dollars. And I think they're going to be, I think it's going to come out where they really were guilty. And when it all comes out in the wash, Amelia says here that one of Mr. Trump's lawyers was supposed to be on with Lou tonight, and that might have had something to do with it. Probably true. You've got, I think, a very concerted effort to debunk the evidence that we've got. And so I went on Twitter tonight and I said, since no court has ever heard the evidence, and no court has, and I say evidence, I'm talking about evidence of election mishandling, because you can't say the F word or you get banned on these platforms. So the mismanagement of ballots, let me put it that way. I'm still waiting for somebody to lay out how the claims were debunked. No court has ever heard the evidence. We don't just saying that it's been debunked doesn't mean it's debunked. So I'm challenging anybody just to go online and show me, provide me links that this is all debunked, especially in a court of law, because it hasn't been. And if anybody wants to start throwing, I put this caveat on my tweet too. If you want to start the ad hominem attacks and start calling me a whatever, that's going to qualify you for an insta block because I'm not putting up with it. But give me a line by line proof of the debunking. Please do that. Part of the reason that I'm saying this is I think it's going to come out that there was lots of evidence of, shall we say, ballot mismanagement. They said there's not a shred of evidence. And yet Time Magazine came out today with this article saying that this is how we did it. We had to protect the election integrity. And they explained how they did all these things. And Time Magazine, they're bragging about what happened. So I'm not going to apologize, but I'm not going to say, gee, we were wrong, because we don't know we were wrong. There's been no evidence heard. We've already got when people commit a crime, they want to come out and tell you about the crime they committed. They want to brag. They want someone to affirm their plotting and scheming and making it all valid. I think that's what's already starting to happen. So I tweeted this out early this morning. It says, our government is corrupt when almost every congressional bill is titled the opposite of what it actually does for the American people. This whole idea of this HR 1, I forget the term that they were using for it, but it is not to protect Americans. It is to enable more ballot mismanagement, election mismanagement. You choose whatever words you wish. Also, have you noticed that almost every bill that gets passed protects politicians and their cronies, not the American people? That's kind of how things are going. So when you see those things happening, you kind of know our government is corrupt. I go all the way back to 2001 with the Patriot Act. I mean, here it's who doesn't want to vote for the Patriot Act? I remember when Ron Paul was in Congress, and he was giving I forget, was he being interviewed or somebody, and someone had asked him, a fellow congressperson had asked him, how come you're not voting for the Patriot Act? And Ron Paul says, because I read it. And it violates our rights left and right. It's so antithetical to the rights that are prescribed, and I should say our protected rights. The Constitution doesn't give us rights. It just says, hey, we are acknowledging these rights. Those first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, those aren't granted by the government. Those are saying you have those rights. We're not going to mess with them. And yet the Patriot Act violated those, so many of those. And it was called the Patriot Act. So people didn't read it, and they voted for it because of the name. We have become quite corrupt, especially at the federal level. And we're becoming corrupt at the local level to boot. I'm going to try to pull up if I can think to do so here, pull up the email from we have here in Idaho, the Idaho Freedom Foundation. And the IFF president, Mr. Wayne Hoffman, is really good about putting information out. And I'm trying to remember where I saw that. It was one of my emails perhaps today. Nope, that's not it. So I'm not seeing it here. But he was talking about how even in Idaho, we have corruption going on, and how our supposedly Republican leadership in the House of Representatives here in the state, the Senate, and at the governor's level, they're not letting it at the leadership level in the Congress. They're not letting bills come that actually protect Idahoans. They're refusing to hear them because looks like that there's, shall we say, a little corruption going on, a little cronyism going on, protecting companies that might be heavy donors to these people. Or they may have friends that work for these companies that these bills are going to maybe inhibit some of their abilities to do certain things. And these guys who've been in the committees for a long time and they're now chairs of these committees are not even allowing the legislation to be heard. You would think that in a representative republic that we could present bills because our elected representatives represent us. We should be able to present bills to our legislature to be heard and considered, and yet they don't even want to hear them. So Oh, I love this. If we refuse to use their machines, can we demand a paper ballot? Actually, my understanding is you can do that when you vote, that you can demand a paper ballot. You know what? Something else. I'm going to write a column about this. Not long after the election fiasco, there was a group of folks here in Idaho that put together a citizens committee of very diverse people. It wasn't just, just patriots. It was a very diverse group, and every economic strata was represented, from very wealthy people down to not so wealthy people, lower middle class. And they all got together, I'd say about 40 or 50 of them. And they came up with an election recommendation for how elections should be run in this country. There are some ingenious suggestions. I thought of just that if they were enacted nationwide, we would never have ballot mismanagement ever again. Let me just offer a few of them, because they're totally contradictory to what HR 1 says at the federal level. But take this, for example. Listen to this logic, right? How do you prevent fraud? I said the word, the F word. Oh my gosh. If you have a printer printing ballots, you count the number of ballots on the day that you start. You count each precinct counts the number of ballots that they have. And at the end of the day, after you've had people vote, so now you have used ballots that are completed, and then you have spoiled ballots, which somebody made a mistake on and turns in, and so now it's a spoiled ballot, should not be counted. And then you have unused ballots. So at the end of the day, the number of cast ballots and the number of spoiled ballots and the number of unused ballots needs to equal the same number of ballots they started with at the beginning of the day. Hey, what a concept. It kind of prevents the idea of trucks rolling in at 10 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning and dropping off boxes of found ballots, because we knew what the number of ballots were at the beginning of the day. Imagine that. Some other great suggestion this committee came up with is to have the ballots counted using 2 independent methods. So if you're going to count via machine 1, then you got to count with a different kind of machine, or better yet, by hand or some other way to count ballots, 2 very different, unrelated systems. And then at the end of the day, when you count the ballots, the numbers have to come up the same. And if they're different by, I think they said like a 0.5 percentage point or something like that, then you need to go back and investigate as to do a recount. All ways to prevent ballot, but none of that's going to be covered. None of that's going to be covered if HR 1 passes. So the HR 1 is, as we predicted, is going to set up the country so that you cannot not elect a leftist. It's going to just set up leftists to win left and right. Let me get out of the balloting thing here and talk a little bit about how to rebel and stand up for our rights when it comes to this COVID situation. Like over in Italy, they've kind of had enough. 50,000 Italian businesses have revolted against the lockdowns. They said, you know what? We're opening. We don't care what you say. We're opening. And you're not going to be able to put us all in jail. And, we're going to deal with this in the courts if we have to, but we're opening. And my question is, do you think Americans have the same backbone? Do we still have, toxic masculinity? Do we still have men who will stand up and say enough? Do we still have strong women who will stand up and say enough? Or is everybody rolled over in little puppy dogs to the federal government, which is trying to rule us like crazy? Let me put this in the chat, by the way. This is a video that I watched tonight that really touched me. This is a video from a Yugoslavian woman. It's over on BitChute, so it's not going to get taken down by our YouTube overlords. But I'm going to put this in the chat. Go ahead and save this video and watch it later. This lady watched what happened in Yugoslavia and how things went south and how they divided people up. And she explains how Yugoslavia went into basically a 4-year civil war. And the parallels to what's happening in our country today are strikingly similar. all the division, all of the media trying to separate the different groups. We now have, if you're white, then you're automatically a racist. And this, it's the whole Marxist approach is class warfare, right? Because that's what existed in the mid 1800s when Marx was postulating his theory. The problem in America, nobody ever bought into it because we have the freedom to move about in the classes. You don't have as much class warfare. Most of the people who are upper class today came from a middle class or even a lower or even a poverty class in the generation before. People don't stay in the same classes. It's not like in India where you're born into a caste and you have to be in that caste. America has the flexibility to move about. It depends on your effort. Risk versus reward. You put energy and effort in, you take risks, you get rewarded. If you sit on your butt and play video games all day, then guess what? You're not going to get as rewarded. I've had clients who've, they're making tens of thousands of dollars a month. And the people who are writing the checks, working in the payroll department in their own company, are pissed at him. And they're jealous because he's making so much money. It's not fair. It's like, he took the risk. He started the company. He deserves the reward of taking the risk. That's how it works. And yet we have these people who say, and if they, by the way, they've changed in the topic has gone from equality, which we all want, right? Equal rights, not a problem, very American. They've now changed the word to equity, which sounds a lot like equality. But equity has to do with same outcome, equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity. Everybody has 24 hours. Everybody has the same opportunity. I can go down to apply at a certain job. You can apply at a certain job. I can apply at a university. You can apply at the university. We all have the same opportunity. I may choose to go get certain learning, which makes me better qualified and more likely to get a job. Other person sits around playing video games in mama's basement. He doesn't have those skills. When he applies, he's probably not going to get the job that I've studied hard for, invested all my time in. But now they're saying we have to have equity. So same outcome for everybody. Well, if they don't put the same input in, I don't think they should have the same output. And yet that's what's being pushed on our university campuses. I was down at the Idaho State House yesterday. Every Thursday, they do this thing called Capital Clarity. Our lieutenant governor and one of our state reps every week hosts other state reps and guest speakers. And so we had a couple presentations, and then we had his presentation from a group that did a study on social justice at the state universities here in Idaho. They started with Boise State University, and they've not yet completed their studies for the other two major state universities. But they did this study on social justice in the state universities. Oh my gosh. After about 2 sentences, I took out my phone, I put the record option on, and I set it on the chair in front of me, and I just recorded the guy talking because it was amazing information. In fact, there is a report that they did as well that they published. And I'm going to have to go look it up, and maybe I'll put it in the show notes after the stream here, after the live show, that talks about how all these mandatory classes you have to take about social justice and how whites are racists and how blacks are victims and blah, 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 or critical race theory this. And it is amazing the indoctrination that they put you. These are mandatory classes. You cannot go on and get a degree at this university, Boise State. And this is not just Boise State. This is happening all around the country. All these universities are now doing these things. But yet there's no mandatory class on the Constitution. There's no mandatory class on American history. Did you know that? You don't have to take a class on the Constitution at Boise State. You don't have to take a class on American history. But you have to take these social justice classes. That's mandatory. They even have these. They're bringing in people to work in the as resident assistants in the dorms, and all of the resident assistants are all brought in based on their ability to push a social justice agenda. All right. So I want you to encourage you to go watch that video on BitChute of this Yugoslavian woman. Our country is at a crossroads. It caused me to do some thinking. I mean, I get pretty snarky. It caused me to do some thinking about what I want to do for this country. And I even talked about a civil war, a possibility of a civil war today. That we have a division going on in this country. Earlier today, I tweeted that a house divided, maybe it was yesterday, a house divided against itself cannot stand. The Daily Caller had posted a poll that half of Americans want the Senate to convict Trump of whatever impeachment charge they've trumped up. Half of the Senate, that's of course Democrats, but half of Americans want the Senate. This is crazy. This is crazy. Unbelievable how successful the propaganda machine has been in this country to divide us. And it makes me angry. It leads me to get very frustrated. And I guess what it makes me angry about is that people believe it. The Marxists are doing it, but what makes me angry is that people actually believe it and they won't listen to reason. In fact, when I posted that lady, the Yugoslavian lady, I went ahead and posted that on my Facebook feed tonight. And with it, I commented, the people who need to see this video won't. I guess I'm just that jaded. But I think that she's right. We need to do more to reach out and try to educate people about what's going on and kind of open the eyes. In fact, today I was thinking of, should I write yet another book? I got like 4 or 5 books that are in the oven right now, but I thought of another title. It's maybe like, When Will the Woke Wake Up? Or Helping the Woke Wake Up or something. We've got to get them awake. We got to let them see what's really going on. Show them the inconsistencies in the logic of what's happening in our universities and in our government and our media. But, I had a friend said, hey, we just need to divide up the nation and let the Marxists have their thing and we'll take this land and we'll just watch them implode. And it's like, that's not realistic. But they sure have done a very good job of infiltrating our media and our government and the entertainment industry and selling us lie after lie after lie. So, cool news, kind of cool news. Let me put this in the link as well in the live chat. For you watching here live and for you watching later, we now have a new book of Daniel store over at Teespring. I hope that link works. If it doesn't, let me know. But you can now go buy some new Book of Daniel merchandise. Yeah, we got merch. We have T-shirts, we've got coffee mugs, and we've got a tote bag so far. We just got it up yesterday. But as some of you know, I've been a management leadership coach for 30 years. I've just kind of gotten into commenting on the political realm in the past year and a half. I was a columnist on workplace issues for the past 20 years, writing weekly columns for multiple websites and physical publications, business journals, and things like that. And a year and a half ago, I decided to expand out and offer some of my limitless opinion, which is why I'm doing a live chat on Friday night, right? And but when I was doing coaching and a lot of corporate training, I have and still have what I call my Danielisms. And there's like about a dozen of them, just little phrases that one can memorize to help set forth your guidance, if you will, for yourself. And one of those plays on an axiom that you've probably heard: first you're born, then you pay taxes. Maybe you've heard that. So I looked at that and I thought, not true. You don't have to pay taxes. Of course, if you choose not to pay taxes, you're going to endure some consequences of that choice. You'll probably end up doing some time in a federal penitentiary, but you don't have to pay taxes. You just have to deal with the consequences of choosing not to pay taxes, right? So really what we're talking about, everything in life is about choices. Everything. we choose. Once we're able to, choose to reach something out, and it's not a reaction as a small child reacting to a stimulus, we choose, we make choices. So the statement is, first you're born, and then you have choices. First you're born, then you have choices. So that was and I love that one because I think it's fundamental. So I created some, we set it up so that we have t-shirts and coffee mugs and tote bags. So you can get that on a t-shirt. Right now, I think we only set it up so that they're black. So if you have a preferred color of t-shirt that you'd like to see with that logo on it, with that little symbol on it, the new Book of Daniel thing, let me know. Contact me. You can put a note in the notes down below this video. Make a comment down below. Hey, I'd love to have an orange shirt with your logo on it. Or that's fine, whatever. Although I have learned not to wear orange because a friend of mine who worked in the jails said, don't ever wear orange because it looks like you just escaped the county jail. So I don't wear orange anymore. But, some people like orange. So I guess that's just me talking. So anyways, go ahead and visit the new Book of Daniel store. We got the link there in the live chat, and pick up some merch. Help support the channel because obviously it does take some time to do these things and to prep for them. And I'm also doing live chats on Alan Key's show on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock my time, which is Mountain, and 4 o'clock Eastern, which would be what, 1 o'clock Western Pacific time. But I got my own show on the Alan Key Show now. So if you want to, I'm always a guest with Alan on Mondays, which is noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and 11 a.m. Pacific. I am always a guest on Mondays with Alan Keyes on imtv.us, or you can go to live.brighteon. But if you go to imtv.us, I believe is the, let me put that in the chat here. imtv.us, I believe is the chat. And it stands for American Independent American Television is what that stands for. Anyways, I'm a guest with Alan on Mondays. We have about an hour-long conversation, and then he's taken his he has a four-hour block with IMTV, and he decided to, some of his regular guests that not like folks like me, he offered us a time slot, so I got the Wednesday afternoon slot, and it's kind of cool. I get to go on there, and I get the whole hour to talk, much like I'm talking about right here. So if you want to catch me on Alan's show, you can do that and spread the word, let people know. And with that, let me shift gears then to say, hey, there's this guy in Florida. Have you seen what happened to this this Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress? Marjorie Taylor Greene was elected to, I believe it's Georgia. And I could be wrong on that. But she was a strong QAnon person. And she, very outspoken patriot. And she's the one that filed the articles of impeachment against creepy Uncle Joe the day after his alleged inauguration. So she's been kind of a stir in the pot kind of gal. Well, they decided to pull her from committees. And 11 Republicans voted with the Democrats to remove her from her committees. So now she's in Congress, but she doesn't serve on any committee. She has no influence in any of the committees, which in essence disenfranchises her constituents. The people that voted to elect her, they're now disenfranchised. She is, as I said earlier, she is their representative. She's representing their voice to Congress, and they're not hearing it. So I saw this guy in Florida. His name is Jimenez. And he said that he watched her and he didn't feel she was contrite enough and she didn't apologize hard enough. And so he voted to remove her from her. And I'm like, all right. And pardon my French, but I spent 6 years in the Navy. And I'm fluent in French after 6 years in the Navy. And I tweeted out, I said, Jimenez from Florida couldn't find his backbone nor his balls as he laid down and prostrated himself to the Democrat overlords. The dude, spineless. And then I said, now do Maxine Waters. Because I don't think she's come anywhere near close to contrite after standing up and on her little soapbox on the sidewalk and telling people to get in the faces of people from Trump's cabinet, and you just push back on them and you do all this stuff, and basically inciting violence. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't been contrite, and yet she's still on her committees. And how about, Kamala Harris, who's saying that we need to have these protests, talking about all the violence this past year. And she was on Stephen Colbert's show saying, we're gonna push back, and we got to keep doing them, and they're going to happen before the election, and they're not going to stop, and they're not going to stop, and they're not going to stop after the election. And then nor should they. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't been contrite. And now she's the vice president, or installed vice president. Let's clarify that. So I'm not so sure that these guys someone's buying them out, I think. There's 3 Bs. You can be bribed, you can be bullied, or you can be blackmailed. The question is, which one happens to Mr. Jimenez? Probably bribed. If you vote against her, we'll put you as a chair on a committee or a vice chair, or we'll give you some prestigious thing. Happens in Idaho. Speaker Bedke, yes, I'm talking to you, Scott Bedke. Speaker Bedke, petulant child. Yes, petulant child. Scott Bedke from Oakley, Idaho, has been the Speaker of the House for a number of years here. And there was somebody who challenged him for Speaker of the House, and he was only elected by 4 votes, which would consist of the leadership of the House. So he won by a squeak. And he had the chutzpah to call in representatives who were chairs of committees and say, did you vote for me to be the speaker? He asked them, and they didn't have to tell him, but some of them did. Yes, I did not vote for you. Yes, I did vote for you. Yes, no, I did not vote for you. And people who did not vote for him, he removed them from their chair. Yeah, you heard that right. Petulant child, Speaker Scott Bedke. Speaker of the Idaho House of Representatives. Let me say it one more time with feeling, just in case he doesn't get it. Petulant child removes people from their chairmanships because they didn't vote for him to be the Speaker of the House. And we're supposed to have a constitutional representative republic? I don't think so. We got an oligarchy here in Idaho. We got an oligarchy in Washington, D.C. These guys are getting bribed, bullies, or whatever. Amelia, you say here, did I see that Louis Gohmert defended MTG? No, I did not see that. And Amelia, if you have a link to that and you want to add that to the chat, well, I will watch that later. That will be interesting to watch. Can you tell I'm just a little bit upset about the lack of representative government? And I think it's because we as Americans have just become too fat, dumb, and happy. And we just go about our lives and we forget that with all these rights that we have come responsibilities. You cannot have the rights without the responsibility. It's the same thing with the equality/equity argument. You don't get the reward unless you have the risk. They come together. With the right comes the responsibility, and we have not been exercising our responsibility. It's on his YouTube channel. Okay, so we will go to Louis Gohmert's YouTube channel and look that up. Thank you, Amelia. Get involved in your local government. Do something. Yes, call. Yes, send emails. Every state's legislature has a web page where you can go see the active bills. You can go through and read them. Go through and read them. Examine what they're about. Look at it from different angles. We do that here. We have a bill reading party on Monday nights. I know that sounds like a lot of fun, right? We do that though. Because we're interested in saving our state. Our state, Idaho, and probably your state too, no matter where you are. If you are under a state of emergency with a FEMA agreement, know that your state no longer has state sovereignty. I would challenge you, because somebody handed me a copy of the FEMA agreement signed with our governor. I would challenge you to go find the FEMA agreement signed with your governor and read it. And if you don't have an access to it on the website, then ask your representative for it. And if they don't have it, then they're falling down on the job. We got a lot of legislators here in Idaho falling down on the job. But get a hold of that. It should be a public document. The FEMA agreement with your state's governor should be a public document. Read it. And I'll bet that your state is being a marionette to Homeland Security. And if they say jump, your state has to say how far and how high. It means you no longer have sovereignty as a state. That's what's happened in Idaho. We no longer are a sovereign state. We are subject to FEMA with whatever they say we have to do. That is in the agreement, which is why Idaho needs to get out from under its state of emergency. Now, our governor, Mr. Brad Little, who allegedly has an R after his name, is kind of, in my opinion, violating our state constitution. And I'm not the only person who thinks that. However, he has his little crony game going on. And I'm very, shall we say, I lost all respect for the man after he started. It's like Jekyll Hyde. After COVID hit, we went from governing very conservatively and very much like a patriot to all of a sudden, wham, flip-flop, became a rhino. He governs like a Democrat now, like a crony Democrat. And he's calling in all of his political favors right now. And I guess I'm not supposed to call him a liar, so I won't call him a liar, but he's using a whole lot of misrepresentation of facts and mistruths and exaggerations and hyperboles, calling in all these favors because the legislators, the House of Representatives, wants to end the state of emergency and restore the sovereignty to Idaho. I'm not the only person saying this. This is people all over the state who are recognizing this. And he's calling in all of his political favors, and they're calling these representatives in droves, hundreds of emails a day, saying, don't end the state of emergency. We're going to lose all this FEMA money. We're going to lose this. We're going to lose that. All of it not true. Not true. The only thing we lose is about $15 million to cover the National Guard that was called out. And I found out talking to one of our representatives that, and by the way, we have a $500 million surplus in this state. $15 million is a spit to cover our own National Guard. Here's what happens. When we have a FEMA agreement in place and you're a National Guard, you get a whole lot more perks. So let's say, this is how the state rep gave me the analogy. Let's say you work for, say, McDonald's, and you get so many days off a year, 2 weeks vacation, and you get break and whatnot, and that's about all you get. But then we're going to put you on a FEMA agreement, and you're going to have to go, you get to go work in the McDonald's corporate office. And now you have health insurance and dental insurance. And instead of 2 weeks off a year, you get 4 weeks off a year. And you get special, instead of having a 2-inch cot, you get a 5-inch cot. And you get all these perks for being under a FEMA order if you're National Guard. So she says, if you are a general and you've got all these guys on the FEMA agreement, well, of course, you want your guys to get all those perks, so you don't want the FEMA agreement to go away. Otherwise, you have to go back to that 2-inch cot and the 2 weeks of vacation. You lose your dental and you lose your health insurance, and you're back to work in the fryer at McDonald's. That's why the National Guard doesn't want to lose the FEMA agreement. They've got perks they're getting out of this. We got hospitals. The former head of our hospitals, they're all nonprofit hospitals, and the former head of nonprofit hospitals are calling up the legislators going, you can't stop this. Well, you know what? Our hospitals in Idaho are getting $34 million per quarter. What's up with that? They don't need that. I'm going to be writing about this soon, and you'll need to watch what I write about at uncoverdc.com. But we have a lot of corruption going on. We have $8.1 billion that has come into Idaho. $8.1 billion, which is more, almost twice what our state budget is. Think about that. CARES money came in to the tune of $8.1 billion. You can buy a whole lot of friends and influence a whole lot of people with that kind of money. And that's what the governor is trying to avoid losing. The FEMA money, by the way, is very small compared to CARES money, very small. But he loses some perks that he doesn't want to lose. He's very selfish. He's a very selfish man. Idaho needs to restore its state sovereignty. And if your state is under a FEMA agreement, you are probably experiencing the same thing, and you don't even know it, because your local TV station journalists and your newspaper journalists, they're being bribed, they're being bullied, they're being blackmailed, whatever. You pick one or more of those three, they're part and parcel with the ideology. They're not backing down. They're supporting all this bullpucky. So start making some noise. We are still a free people until we believe otherwise. Did you catch that? Until we believe otherwise. Now, if we stand up, and they're trying very hard to paint us as domestic terrorists, that's part of the plan. Don't buy it. They want to call you a racist? So what? Don't be afraid of these labels. We cannot be afraid of these labels. Stand up for principle. That's what I'm trying to say. One more thing, and then I'm going to close out. I've already been talking for 40 minutes. Gee, time flies when you're having fun. Did you know this thing that they're calling a vaccine is not a vaccine? Did you know that this is an mRNA jab? It's experimental. This process of experiment that they're trying to do, they would normally do in animals first, and they would be studying the side effects and the ripple effects. And Dr. Zelenko, in my interview with him, he says, you need 20 million doses in humans before you can certify that there's no side effects and identify what the side effects are. And you've got people out there right now, governors, including our governor here in Idaho. Oh, it's this very safe vaccine. Bullpucky. It's not safe. They've never done this injection on 15 million people. It hasn't happened. It's not verified safe. To say it's safe is a lie. This is normally a 15-year process. And they did 1 year with a couple of dozen of people, and they didn't do a proper study. We, the entire American population, are being considered guinea pigs. And we're being told it's safe. And we're all just being tested. And I will close with this. If you have someone named Bill Gates who has done a TED Talk, and you can go online and find this, he did a TED Talk advocating that the world's population needs to be reduced 30 to 50%. Bill Gates wants the world to be depopulated 30 to 50%. Bill Gates is a strong proponent of everybody taking this, quote, vaccine, unquote. This experimental mRNA jab. He is a very strong advocate for this. Why would I want to take something, inject it into my body, which will always stay in my body because it's synthetic, and it's going to cause my body to react in a certain way for the rest of my life, different than how my body operates now? Why would I take this experimental vaccine, quote unquote, that Mr. Bill Gates is strongly advocating for, if that same Bill Gates is advocating also for a 30 to 50% reduction in the world's population? Think on that. Think on that. And Amelia, I saw your comment, and I will follow up with you on that offline. But think on that, people. do we really want to have our senior citizens and our children, or even us, taking an experimental vaccine that's being advocated by a man who wants to depopulate the planet by 50%? I'll let you come up with your own answer for that. Hey, this has been Friday night. Way out of my league to normally do this on a Friday night, but hey, you never know when I'm going to do these things anymore. I'm having fun. Feel free to reach me anytime. You can leave a comment in the notes down below. Those of you who are on Twitter, my DM is always open. You can always DM me there. You can send me a direct message. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/New Book of Daniel. You can find me when Parler pops back up at New Book of Daniel on Parler. I'm also on MeWe, New Book of Daniel, or you can look me up as Daniel Bobinski. I'm not sure. MeWe's a little bit odd that way. I don't spend much time on those platforms anymore. I'm working on a couple of books. Interesting situation. If you want to subscribe to the New Book of Daniel channel, down below in the Facebook, the YouTube thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit that red subscribe button. Hit the little bell if you want to get notified when we do these things, when I upload new content. And what else? Oh, you can catch my writings over at uncoverdc.com and also over on Red State. And then you can catch me live on Mondays with Alan Keyes, noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And also that's as a guest with Alan. And then I got my own show, my own hour on Wednesday afternoons, 2 p.m. Wednesday afternoons Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Eastern. I thank you for tuning in. This is Friday night. We're having a lot of fun. And like I said, feel free to contact me and reach me out on any of those social media platforms. And we'll catch you guys the next time I decide to do one of these. Until then, be blessed.